the past half a century, an ancient army of warriors has been quietly conquering the world. Wherever small battalions of China's famous Terracotta warriors are exhibited, they win over a new legion of fans.
For the last 50 years, an army of warriors from a bygone era has been silently taking over the world, and wherever small battalions of China's renowned terracotta warriors go on display, they befriend a new legion of admirers. Experts have discovered ominous new secrets in the terracotta warriors, and no one is prepared for what they've discovered. We discovered incredible archaeological artifacts, and the significance is huge for archaeology. It's going to be absolutely revolutionary. 20 centuries ago, an emperor's army was lying under the soil, 8,000 warriors frozen in time, awaiting discovery. For decades, China's first emperor, Qin Xiang, life-size soldiers have captivated the world. Others comment that they all seem different, that no two are the same. Some have a slight belly, others are extremely tall. And the question has been posed, were they made one by one? Each of the warriors is distinct, made with an attention to detail that still resists explanation. But fresh research, reported in pioneering stories and footage, including investigations into multiple viral documentaries, has uncovered unbelievable facts regarding how such warriors were created and what they may really stand for. Today, the truth is finally emerging, and you're going to hear it. An army in silence frozen in history. Picture entering a huge underground cavern, the air thick with heritage, and in front of you stand thousands of life-sized warriors, every face different, every hairdo different, every suit of armor different, standing in impeccable line, as if holding their breath waiting for a signal that will never arrive. This is the Terracotta Army, the still defenders of China's first emperor, Qin Shi. For more than 2,000 years, they lay buried in the earth by Xi'an, undisturbed, before a band of farmers accidentally discovered them in 1974. What they uncovered was unlike anything the world had ever known. The Terracotta warriors were a component of a gigantic burial complex meant to guard the emperor in the afterlife, with estimates placed at over 8,000 soldiers, 130 chariots, and 670 horses, a whole army lovingly modeled from clay. Every warrior's features are unique, which has led scholars to speculate they were based on actual individuals. But such accuracy is puzzling. How did craftsmen more than 2,000 years ago manage to create such realistic detail? And what was the term? Qin Shi Huang was an emperor who was fixated on immortality and total control. He unified China for the first time, but his tactics were ruthless. The ancient accounts tell of slave labor, with hundreds of thousands of workers laboring to construct his empire and eventually his tomb, and many of these workers probably never return home alive. The Terracotta Army, as beautiful as it is, could have been the product of unimaginable hardship. When archaeologists first unearthed the warriors, they were stunned by the complexity of the site. The figures were originally painted in vibrant colors, reds, blues, and purples, that quickly faded once exposed to air. The technology required to create these statues, from the high-temperature kilns to the assembly line-style construction, hinted at a civilization far more advanced than previously believed. But the deeper that researchers looked, the more disturbing details came to light. Details that implied that the making of this clay army could have been a lot more sinister than the exquisite artistry implied. For years, the terracotta soldiers had been revered as a testament to human engineering and proof of China's rich heritage. But under that praise, questions had long rested. Who were the men who toiled to build this monumental endeavor? How did they fare? And why were there no accounts of their lives? Only the silent witness of the soldiers they had built? When technology improved, archaeologists were provided with new means of gazing deeper into the secrets of the warriors, probing their makeup, examining residues of pigments, and testing ancient soils. What they uncovered, as we will discover in the chapters to come, would compel historians to rethink all they believed they knew of this army and its creator, for the reality is more complex and much more sinister than the myth that has enthralled the globe for decades. When the warriors were initially discovered, their beautiful colors faded in a matter of minutes, leaving the pale gray statues we have today, and this puzzled scientists until they found out that a special lacquer extracted from the sap of a rare tree had been applied prior to painting. It was a hazardous and long process, and the workers who worked with this lacquer for years might have developed terrible health issues, even death, a revelation that suggested these masterpieces were created in brutal working conditions. Archaeologists also uncovered the remains of mass graves close to the location, which were assumed to be the graves of the tomb's construction workers and the army. Historical accounts by Samachi, a Han Dynasty historian, indicate that most of the workers and craftsmen were murdered upon completing their task, silenced forever in order to conceal the emperor's secrets. The notion that thousands could have lost their lives to produce these warriors lends an eerie twist to the silence of these silent ones. One of the most disturbing discoveries was that from the facial analysis studies, which saw researchers comparing the warriors' faces and discovering that many of them bore resemblance to actual people. This brings to mind a chilling possibility. Were these statues rendered from the very people who were made to do so? If this is true, it would mean that the slaves not only toiled under inhumane conditions, but also contributed their own images to the earthly realm, trapped in perpetuity in clay as immortal guards of the man who owned them. These finds altered the story. What was previously lauded entirely as a breathtaking archaeological marvel now bore the burden of humanity's pain and imperial brutality. The Terracotta army remains a masterpiece, but is also a testament to the cost in human lives of unlimited power. And as scientists keep unearthing layers of clay, they are beginning to discover that the real tale of these soldiers is even more sinister than we suspected. Decades ago, scholars thought they had discovered almost everything about the Terracotta army, until a tide of emerging technologies shook things up. Advanced 3D scanning, high-magnification microscopy, and chemical mapping unveiled an entirely new world into the lives of these warriors, and what scientists learned left even the most experienced archaeologists in awe. One of the revelations occurred when scientists tested tiny amounts of pigment residue left on the warriors. Using synchrotron radiation, which is basically a particle accelerator, they were able to ascertain the precise chemical makeup of the paints and lacquers. The findings were stunning. The pigments included minerals and compounds not typically found in the area, which was an indication of a long-distance trade network during the 3rd century BC. This indicated that Qin Shi Huang's empire was not only powerful, but also connected worldwide in ways historians never dared dream. Yet another breakthrough came in isotopic analysis of the clay itself. Researchers discovered that the clay for the warriors had come from several different sources, some distant from Shan. This only added credence to the notion that construction involved huge empire-wide coordination, but also posed disturbing questions. How much coerced labor and exploitation of resources had been needed to make such an effort feasible? Maybe the biggest surprise, though, was when scientists analyzed microscopic tool marks deposited on the statues. They found that the weapons initially inserted into the warriors' hands, actual bronze swords, spears, and crossbows, were produced by methods that bore an uncanny resemblance to modern-day assembly line manufacturing. This degree of efficiency should not have been feasible in 210 BC, but Qin's artisans had mastered it. To reach that level of manpower, archival history indicated that hundreds of thousands of workers, artisans, and slave laborers were deployed to the task, many of whom probably paid in blood. Adding to the intrigue, scientists found traces of chromium on the swords, something that seemed to be an ancient anti-rust coating. For decades, this caused many to assume that Qin dynasty researchers had developed a technology well beyond its time. Subsequent research determined that it was probably an accidental byproduct of the lacquer applied to the wooden handles. Nevertheless, the fact stands that these weapons had lasted more than 2 millennia in near-perfect shape. The actual scale of planning, expertise, and